The CEO eagerly opened the package sent by his fiancée, but when he saw what was inside, his face turned pale with anger. Not long ago, his fiancée accidentally broke the mug that his first love had given him. Infuriated, he verbally abused his fiancée, yelling at her to get out of the house. Today, the fiancée intentionally sent him an identical mug, clearly mocking him. The more the CEO thought about it, the angrier he became. So he smashed the mug on the ground. But his friends saw this and chuckled, then pulled out a dozen identical mugs from the package. It turned out that the fiancée had anticipated he would break the mug, so she prepared several more for him to smash. Enraged, the CEO couldn't hold back any longer, and immediately tried to send a message to question his fiancée, only to find that she had already removed him from her contacts. His friend advised him to apologize to his fiancée, but the CEO still didn't think he was in the wrong, and continued to act self-righteously with his first love. He confidently believed that his fiancée had loved him for over a decade, and since they were already engaged, she wouldn't dare to break up with him. Little did he know that his fiancée had already become someone else's legitimate wife. When his father saw the marriage certificate, he was shocked, and after inquiring, he learned that not long ago, the woman had accidentally broken the mug given to the CEO by his first love, which led to the CEO hurling a barrage of insults at her. The woman felt deeply wronged, because she had already tolerated the CEO keeping photos of him and his first love in their room. But today, she accidentally broke the mug, and was met with verbal abuse from the CEO. She became completely disillusioned with the man she had loved for over 10 years. She returned the engagement token to the CEO and broke off the engagement, then walked out the door. The CEO thought the woman was just being spiteful, and didn't intend to chase after her. The heartbroken woman decided to go home to seek comfort from her parents. Just then, she ran into her father's student, a man who had come to deliver some documents. He noticed the handprint on the woman's face and immediately expressed concern, but the woman didn't want to say much and quickly left with an excuse. Little did she know that the man had been secretly in love with her for 10 years. She thought she would receive comfort from her parents after returning home, but when she told them about the breakup, they blamed her for being too impulsive, asking how she could break up and leave home so casually. The girl broke down upon hearing this, saying that today she had only accidentally broken one of the CEO's mugs, but he had insulted and hit her, and her parents were only concerned with pushing her to get married, without ever caring whether she was truly happy. Upon hearing that her daughter had been hit by the CEO, the mother immediately wanted to call and question him. The woman ran out of the house, and broke down, squatting on the ground and crying. At that moment, the man handed her a tissue. Seeing this, the woman quickly wiped away her tears and tried to turn away, but then, her best friend sent her a photo. The photo showed the CEO embracing his first love. Seeing this, the woman completely gave up, and then asked the man to marry her. The man, in disbelief, asked her again if she was sure, hoping she would think it over seriously. He told her that if she was sure, he would wait for her at the Civil Affairs Bureau at 10 a.m. the next day. The next day, the man was already waiting at the Civil Affairs Bureau, and when the woman hurried over, they got their marriage certificate, becoming a legally married couple. The CEO brought a 400-pound woman to a world-class beauty salon, and asked the stylists to give her a major makeover. However, her bulky figure made it difficult for anything to look good on her, and the CEO could only express his frustration by saying he couldn't bear to watch. Finally, when the woman tried on her 100th outfit, the CEO couldn't hold back any longer and asked the stylist to make sure that in 3 days, the woman's body and face would slim down. The woman then embarked on an intense and grueling workout regimen, and the reason she worked so hard was to expose the fake personas of her husband and best friend. It turned out that recently, her best friend had participated in a singing competition, and her angelic voice instantly won unanimous praise from the audience. However, in the middle of the performance, a sudden sneeze was heard. The woman's husband, who was in the audience, suddenly looked horrified, but the best friend on stage calmly continued singing, and then explained to the audience that she had a severe cold. The judges were impressed that she could sing so well despite being sick, and awarded her the gold prize, bestowing her with the title of Queen of the Music World. Little did anyone know, all the credit belonged to this unassuming woman backstage. All of the best friend's singing had been done by this woman as a stand-in. At that moment, her husband, who is her best friend's manager, barges in, scolding her for daring to sneeze during such an important competition. The woman quickly apologized, but the husband wasn't forgiving at all. The best friend then walked in and pretended to be kind, telling him to apologize to the woman. However, he blamed the woman's weight, saying that with her body and looks, she could never perform on stage, and that if it weren't for the best friend's lip-syncing, her career would be over. He added that in a few days, he would accompany the best friend to another singing competition, and once she won the top prize, his life would be perfect. In time he would have more time for the lady and their children. Hearing this, the woman was overjoyed, and planned to write a few new songs in the coming days, to help her husband and best friend win the top award at the singing competition. Little did she know, her husband and best friend had already hooked up, and they were planning to ditch her after winning the award. The next day, the CEO held a company award ceremony, praising the best friend for bringing the company substantial profits from the previous day's competition. He awarded her $1 million and a luxury recording studio as a reward. The husband was also named an outstanding manager as a result. At this point, he requested to say a few few words on stage. Once granted permission, he walked up and didn't hesitate to publicly reveal his relationship with the best friend. However, the wife saw all of this on TV and was shocked to learn about her husband's affair with the best friend. Despite this, she hid her emotions in front of her child and then left the hospital room, claiming she had to go to work. Meanwhile, the husband and best friend, emboldened by their now public relationship, began flirting in the restroom, completely unaware that the CEO was inside one of the stalls. At that moment, the woman, who was on her way to work, overheard their conversation, and learned that not only did her husband despise her for being fat and ugly, but he also planned to dump her after the Golden Melody Awards ceremony. What was even worse was that the so-called nutritional supplements her best friend had been giving her for the past few years were actually hormone pills that made her gain weight, all to better control her as a voice double for the best friend. Enraged after discovering the truth, the woman stormed into the restroom to confront her husband about why he was treating her this way. The husband callously replied that if it weren't for her angelic voice, they wouldn't have given her the pills that caused her weight gain. Angry, the woman threatened to expose them, but her husband then threatened her, reminding her that their child was still in the hospital and that the daily treatment costs were $10,000. He then revealed a shocking secret: the child wasn't actually his, and if she didn't cooperate and continue being the best friend's voice double, he would immediately stop paying for the child's treatment. For the sake of her child, the woman reluctantly agreed. They thought no one knew their secret, but the CEO had overheard everything from the adjacent stall. Determined to help the woman get revenge, the CEO took her to a top-notch beauty salon to help her lose weight. He hoped she comes out with a new look and exposes the scum in her best friend's schemes. A rural man took his daughter to buy steamed buns. He noticed a small beggar behind them, staring longingly at the food. Though not wealthy, the man bought 2 extra buns and called the beggar over to give them to her. As the man and his daughter were leaving, the little beggar quietly followed them. Each time the man looked back, the beggar would stop immediately, but as soon as they walked on, she hurriedly followed again. The man finally stopped and asked her why she was following them. When he learned that she was homeless, he invited her to come home with him. The beggar girl was so happy that she nodded repeatedly. From that day on, the little beggar became part of the family. One day, the man bought a new school bag for his daughter. His daughter was so happy that she jumped up and down. The adopted daughter watched with envy but didn't dare say anything. To her surprise, the man then took out another new school bag for her. The girl had never expected her adoptive father to prepare something for her too, which made her feel very touched. From then on, the three of them lived a simple life. Although not wealthy, each day was filled with love and happiness. In the blink of an eye, 15 years passed. The adopted daughter grew up and excelled in her studies. Every day after school, she would prepare meals for her adoptive father, waiting for him to return from the construction site. In contrast, the biological daughter spent her days dressing up in her room. When her sister called her to eat, she wasn't enthusiastic, and she even criticized the meals her sister made as being unappetizing. One day, while eating, the daughter suddenly doubled over in pain. At the hospital, it was discovered that she had uremia. The father immediately knelt down and begged the doctor to save his daughter. The doctor said the illness had progressed too far and that a kidney transplant was needed, and that the surgery would cost at least 200,000 yuan. The father was struck as if by lightning, but to save his daughter, he decided to donate his own kidney. Then he hurried out to raise money. He went around to all his friends and relatives in the village but couldn't borrow much. In desperation, he knelt down to the foreman to borrow money. This scene was witnessed by the adopted daughter, who was returning from buying groceries. The foreman took out the few hundred yuan he had and gave it to the father, suggesting that he send the adopted daughter out to work to help support the family. The adoptive father firmly shook his head, saying that the adopted daughter was a good student and couldn't afford to miss her future. He thanked the foreman and turned to leave, not realizing that the adopted daughter had seen everything. The adopted daughter made up her mind. The next day, she packed her things and prepared to leave for work. She left a letter on the stone table in the courtyard to say goodbye to the family. As she looked at the familiar courtyard, her heart was filled with mixed emotions. She couldn't bear to leave every inch of the land there, and she would never forget the warmth she felt when her father gave her a new school bag. It was at that moment that she decided to leave. She swore to venture out into the world, change her family's situation, and never let her father work so hard again. Meanwhile, the father was already lying on the operating table, preparing to donate his kidney for his daughter. When the father recovered and returned home, he found that the adopted daughter was gone. On the stone table in the courtyard, he found a letter left by his adopted daughter. The letter said she had gone out to work. The adoptive father rushed out of the house to find her, but it was too late. In the blink of an eye, 3 years passed. The daughter got into university, and the father sent her off to the city to study. The daughter promised to earn money and take care of him after graduation. The father was happy to hear this, but her departure made him think of the adopted daughter again. Another 5 years passed. One day, the father prepared a chicken and some local specialties, planning to go to the city to celebrate his daughter's birthday. But the daughter had long forgotten her promise to her father. She had secretly married in the city, and fearing her wealthy fiancé would look down on her, she lied, saying her father was abroad. When the fiancé wants to invite her father to her birthday, but she lied to her fiancé that her father was dead. Her fiancé immediately wanted to hold a grand funeral for her late father. the billionaire female CEO returns home to visit her family. She discovers her mother crouching in the kitchen, eating leftovers. Meanwhile, her brother and sister-in-law's family are enjoying a feast at the dining table. She quickly helps her mother to the living room. She accuses her sister-in-law of not taking good care of their mother. Her brother impatiently tells her to shut up. He explains that their mother smells bad, so she is not allowed to eat at the table. The female CEO questions why the sister-in-law's mother can eat at the table. The sister-in-law claims she's mother deserves it because she gave birth to a son for the family. Hearing these self-righteous words, the female CEO realizes how miserable her mother's life has been at home. She immediately demands an explanation from her brother and sister-in-law. Fearing her daughter will disrupt the family's harmony for her sake, the mother quickly changes the subject, asking her daughter to distribute gifts to everyone. This temporarily diffuses the situation. The sister-in-law sees the CEO giving her mother $1 million pendant and immediately gets greedy. She suggests giving the pendant to her precious son. The female CEO suspects the sister-in-law really wants to give it to her own mother. The brother scolds his sister, accusing her of disrespecting the sister-in-law. He claims that since the sister-in-law's mother takes care of the entire family, she deserves the pendant. The mother also urges her daughter to agree, but the female CEO firmly refuses. The sister-in-law's mother immediately changes her attitude. She sarcastically says that the CEO's mother does nothing all day and can't even take care of a child, clearly born to live a life of luxury. These words completely enrage the female CEO. She declares that they all eat and live off her money, and if they don't like it, they can get out. The sister-in-law's family immediately starts acting. The sister-in-law's mother pretends to stop the argument, hypocritically saying it's all her fault and she'll leave the house immediately. Seeing this, the CEO's mother quickly tries to calm the situation. The sister-in-law also pretends to admit her mistake, saying she'll leave with her mother. The son, hearing his mother wants to leave, starts crying and begging her not to go. The brother, seeing the chaos, accuses the female CEO of bullying his wife and tells her to take their mother and leave. The female CEO responds that she bought the house, so if anyone should leave, it should be them. That night, back in her room, the CEO is shocked to find her mother's hands full of cracked skin from washing clothes. She then discovers that her jewelry is missing. Enraged, she immediately goes to confront her brother and sister-in-law. At that moment, the sister-in-law is proudly playing with the jewelry, plotting with her husband to take over the villa. The husband says if the sister doesn't agree, he threatened his mother's life. Seeing her brother and sister-in-law's ugly faces, the female CEO decides to teach them a lesson. The next day, the CEO finds her brother and sister-in-law and pretends not to know anything, saying her jewelry is missing and she's going to call the police. The brother immediately jumps up, explaining that the sister-in-law was just using the jewelry since they're all family, so it's the same no matter who wears it. He then seizes the opportunity to bring up the ownership of the house, asking his wife to call their mother over to discuss transferring the house to him. Since the female CEO refuses to transfer the house to her brother, he and his wife threaten their mother's life, saying if she doesn't agree, their mother will never have a good life again. With no other choice, the CEO pretends to agree. Unexpectedly, the sister-in-law complains that the house is too old and plans to have the CEO buy them $1 million mansion. She knew the girl was born mute, yet she intentionally asked her to sing on stage. She thought this would make the girl embarrass herself in front of everyone. Unexpectedly, the girl walked straight to the stage. At this moment, her boyfriend quickly grabbed her, telling her not to embarrass herself. He tried to take her away, but the girl shook him off and headed to the stage without looking back. As the melodious singing filled the hall, the jerk boyfriend finally realized that the mute girlfriend who had stood by him for 5 years was actually a normal person. He could never have imagined that the girl pretended to be mute to comfort the injured CEO. 5 years ago, the CEO lost his voice in a car accident, causing him to lose his confidence. To prevent the CEO from feeling self-conscious, the girl claimed she was born deaf and mute. With the girl's thoughtful companionship, the CEO gradually emerged from the shadow of being mute. They even sparked a romantic relationship. The girl planned to confess at their wedding that she wasn't actually deaf or mute. But after the CEO regained his voice, he began to show a hint of disdain towards the girl. He even complained in front of her. He was annoyed that the girl was born deaf and mute, and couldn't be cured. Every time they communicated, he had to use sign language, reminding him of his difficult past. He also worried that his family's reputation in the business world would be tarnished if others knew he married a mute woman. Everyone present assumed the girl couldn't hear. Little did they know, her heart was breaking. She couldn't believe that her 5 years of companionship had become a burden for the CEO. However, she didn't expose him and instead lied about being tired, saying she needed to go home and rest, because she still didn't want to give up on this relationship. The next day, the girl attended her best friend's party. She accidentally saw the CEO dancing intimately with her friend. She clearly remembered how the CEO used to refuse her invitations to dance, saying he didn't like lively events. Now, he was dancing with another woman. Before she could recover, the CEO approached her and scolded her for leaving without saying goodbye the previous day. He felt she had embarrassed him in front of his friends. The girl felt deeply wronged. But then, her friend deliberately clung to the CEO's arm, provoking the girl. She mocked the girl for being a deaf-mute who couldn't hear the music or dance. The girl and her friend both fell into the swimming pool. The CEO jumped in without hesitation and saved the girl. Her friend was furious at the sight. Back at home, the CEO could no longer suppress his anger. He blamed the girl for causing him trouble and making him a laughingstock. He also resented her for being a mute orphan. Just then, morning, the friend called, crying on the phone. The CEO hung up and was about to go comfort her. The girl quickly stood up and asked him where he was going so late. The CEO lied, saying there was a problem at the company that needed his attention. At that moment, the girl finally understood that she could tolerate all of the CEO's bad temper, but she couldn't accept his lies. Realizing their relationship had reached its end, she left a breakup note for him the next morning. She resolutely left the home they had shared for 5 years. Little did the CEO know, not only was the girl not mute, but she was also the granddaughter of the wealthiest man. Upon learning of the girl's tragic experience, the wealthy man was heartbroken.